Hey everybody, this is Erica, the technology nerd who likes to film stuff, and I've got the LG G3 right here. I've been so excited to get my hands on this device and to check it out because it's got a lot of really great features. And I've only had this device for a few days now, but I've had a chance to check out the basics like the display. I've had a chance to see what's going on with the battery life. I've had a chance just to play with all the neat features. So I want to talk about what I think about it so far. But before I do that, I want to thank 28mobile.com so much for sending this device out to me so quickly so that I could review it. 28mobile.com has a 28-day money-back guarantee. And of course, they have the G3 available for you to purchase. This is the Korean model, keep that in mind. But what's nice about the Korean model, at least this one here, this is the F400K. It has band 17, so you can use it on AT&T LTE. And also, I'm in France right now, and I've been able to use it on LTE on Bouygues Telecom as well. So it has more LTE bands than they let on. So it is a functional device that you can use in other countries. It also has 32 gigabytes of internal storage and 3 gigabytes of RAM. The box comes with 2 batteries and a charging dock for the extra battery, and also the station that you can sit the G3 on. So this is a really great package that it comes with, and I recommend it. I'm also going to be checking out some other versions of the phone later on, but if you want to get a hold of a device right now, I think that this is a really nice package. So check out 28mobile.com, that's where I got this device from, and let's go ahead and check out what this offers so far. So you must excuse the screaming voices of small children if you hear them. It's a nice, bright, sunny day outside in the summer, and of course I can't get them to be quiet. But here we have the LG G3 next to every other cool phone pretty much on the planet right now. The S5, Oppo Find 7, we've got the Z2, HTC One M8, OnePlus One, and, iPhone 5S has to be thrown in there for good measure. So I want to do a little bit of a size comparison, but I wanted to show you that, yes, I did not lie. This came with 2 batteries, 3,000 milliamp hours for both of them. This F400K package is pretty prolific. It would be really nice if the United States would offer this much stuff to come with, but of course, you just don't get this. So here we have the 2 3,000 milliamp hour batteries that this device came with, and also we've got the dock. This dock doesn't charge. I really hoped it would, but it simply just lets the device set on it. Just like that. It works. Works quite nice. Sits on your nightstand. You can put it this way as well. But still, it's very excellent to be able to take that extra battery and be able to just charge it on the side when you are out or whatever. If you want to charge it overnight with your phone, you can do that as well. And you can just take your spare with you. So this is very nice to have both of these included. It also comes with these non-tangle earbuds, which is incredibly nice because I can't tell you how many earbuds I have already that are just the normal kind that just get all tangled up and they get stuck in my purse and they're just not usable at that point. I spend 5 minutes untangling them. So that's nice. I hope that this is included with all versions of the phone. Really nice little earbuds. So looking at the size of this device, it is quite large. Of course, everyone is talking about those bezels because they are very, 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 very slim. This device pretty much is all display. What I mean by all display is here is the Oppo Find 7. Yes, this is the Quad HD version of the Oppo Find 7. This is not the Find 7a. They both have the exact same size of display, but you can see that the bezels on the top and on the bottom are just a lot bigger. So those displays are the same size, but this device is quite a bit bigger for the Find 7. And I really do prefer the feeling of the G3. They did a great job getting that ratio with the display to the size of this device. So compared to the size of other flagships, here we have the Z2. You can see that the Z2 is quite a bit taller, and it only has a 5.2-inch display, so I just can't express how impressive this is. And then we have the M8, which is pretty much the same height here. And what we have on this one is a 5-inch display. So if you're a person who wants a big display but not a really huge device along with the big display, this one is really probably going to be the best choice for you. And we've also got the size compared to the OnePlus One. I will be talking about this device soon, but the display is the same size on here as well. So this brings me to the very first thing that I want to talk about, which is the display on this device. This has got a Quad HD display, so 4 times HD or 720p. And I've had a chance to really get close up with this display and take a look at it. And also, Francois and I have done some measurements. But the first thing that I want to say about this display is that compared to what we have with the Oppo Find 7, which also has the Quad HD display, This display has a lot of sharpening added. And the sharpening looks actually quite unnatural. You do see halos around borders and edges. You see halos around text. And at first I felt, you know what? It actually makes the display look lower resolution if possible because you've got pixel artifacts and it just doesn't look very nice. What I'm hoping is that other versions of the phone won't have this sharpening. But then I got the Find 7 this morning, and the Find 7 does not have this sharpening. And looking at the Find 7 compared to other 1080p devices, what I am finding really interesting is that it's very, very, very difficult to tell the difference between Quad HD and 1080 by 1920 displays. It really is quite difficult to tell the difference. You can see the difference around text. You can see the difference around icons if there's small details in icons especially. But to the normal average day consumer, they're really not going to see much of a difference with the Quad HD display. And one of the things that Francois pointed out is that actually the sharpening might make sense because since it really is that difficult to tell the difference at some points between the Quad HD and the 1080p displays, maybe adding the sharpening really does let you see, okay, yeah, this is a very sharp display. It is quite different. So I feel like LG probably helped embellish it a little bit and overemphasize the fact that it's Quad HD by adding that sharpening. But still, it looks quite unnatural. Don't get me wrong, Quad HD does look very fantastic. It really does have the illusion of printed paper, especially when looking at text and when looking at fine details. But seriously, I would be just as happy with a 1080p display than I would with Quad HD. I'd actually, at this point, prefer the 1080p displays because I would say that this technology is not quite ready. In comparison to other devices that I have, especially the HTC One M8, this display gets very, very bright. I love bright displays. And the issue that I am seeing with both the G3 and the Find 7 is that the display just doesn't get very bright at all. So of course this brings me to concerns of battery life. With a display that doesn't get very bright, I am influenced to turn the display up as bright as I possibly can. Anything that is below 65% for me is just not bright enough and not comfortable enough to use. So I end up jacking that brightness up. Some of you might be the type that likes a device that has lower brightness, but if you aren't, you're probably going to be jacking that brightness up, and when you turn that brightness up, they're saying that this device, this panel, is power efficient, but I'm really having concerns about that. With a display this size and having to turn the brightness up all the way, I'm starting to see that the battery life so far for me has not been very impressive. I've noticed that I've been able to get about 4 hours of screen on time. You know, that's having LTE on, that's Wi-Fi, that's taking pictures, that's playing games, that's doing a lot of things during the day that the normal person would probably be doing if they use their smartphone a lot. So I've only been able really to get about 4 hours of screen time max so far. I've been seeing other people getting a little bit better than that. So I'm not quite sure what to think about this yet, but so far I'm not so impressed with the battery life, and I think it has to do with that display. So over the next few weeks, I'm going to be using this device quite a bit. I'm going to see what exactly is going on with the battery life. But still, keep in mind that what we have in here is a 3000 milliamp hour battery with a display that's 5.5 inches and very pixel dense. So if you're somebody who's using the phone a lot with the screen on a lot, I really could expect it to not last too terribly long. I would say that 4 hours of screen time is not horrific for battery life, but it's not where I saw the G2. The G2 lasted just 6 hours of on-screen time, 7 hours of on-screen time. That device was just impressive. So seeing this, I'm a little bit bummed out. And if I was to go for an LG flagship phone just for battery life right now, I would be going with the G2. So let's check out some measurements of this display so I can let you know what's going on with the calibration. One of the things that I noticed right away, first thing when turning this display on at the LG event, was that the reds look very dim. And I wasn't sure if they were oversaturating or exactly what, but now I have some results and I can tell you what's going on with those. So when looking at the luminance response curve, if we look at highlights, which would be the bright parts of an image, they have decreased the highlights, so whites of an image are really not so bright. I would say that the highlights are pretty dim. Then if we look at shadows or dark parts of an image, we can see that they are increasing the brightness. So supposedly this is revealing more details and shadows, things that you wouldn't be able to see if the shadows were darker. So it looks like LG is trying to create some type of an effect where they decrease the overall contrast, and you can also see that the contrast ratio of the display is actually pretty poor. It's 700 to 1. Usually I like to see contrast ratios like 1,000 to 1. So effectively the blacks are not as black as they should be. So I was talking to my fiance Francois, who deals with all things calibration. He's really a guru of sorts. And I asked him, why in the world would they do this? It's just crazy. It just doesn't even look nice. And he thinks that it tends to preserve details. And then we can see that they are also crazy over sharpening things. So that just looks like LG's motif, where they want to show so much detail and then sharpen and show even more detail. And then it looks like they're trying to compensate for what they're doing with lowering contrast by increasing saturation pretty insanely. Something that's supposed to be 87% red, or red that's almost 90, is pushed all the way towards 100% red. So they really are trying to increase the saturation. But the interesting thing is that even though they're increasing the saturation pretty crazily, the display still looks kind of dim to me. So this is something that you're really going to have to decide for yourself. Is this an effect that you like? I think it creates muted tones overall. You do have saturated colors, but they don't look punchy. It definitely doesn't look like the Z2 that had a very candied display, a very bright display in candy-like colors. This looks pretty muted down on purpose. My opinion is that no, I don't really like this effect, but I think it would look just so much better if they got rid of that sharpening. The sharpening just is very fatiguing to the eyes. Now don't get me wrong, just because I am seeing some issues with the display, because that's what I do, and I am seeing some issues with battery life right now, which I'm really going to be using this more to see what results I can get. I really do love this device. This feels absolutely fantastic in hand. I love texting on this device. This display is so vast. It's so incredibly comfortable to hold and type at the same time. Of course, so far I haven't been so convinced by the keyboard, as I mentioned in my first video. I really do find SwiftKey to be more efficient. I do notice, I don't know if this is something that they changed after the event or if this is something that I missed at the event. Let's go ahead and type a sentence. Hello there. Just for example, and that looks terrible, didn't work whatsoever. This is why I like SwiftKey. I can just type whatever and it fixes it for me. But anyway, when you hold down this spacebar here, you're able to move the cursor where you'd like it. And one thing that I was complaining about was that it looked like you couldn't quite get to the front of the line here. But it looks like they since added the ability to be able to scroll all the way to the front by going all the way to either side of the keyboard. Maybe I missed this, but I don't think so. Let's go ahead and do this. Just a very long line. You can see what I mean. One thing that I really thought needed to be added was the ability to scroll all the way to the front of the line just by simply holding on the keyboard. And you can see that it's doing that right now. You can see I got to the front of the line. If you go all the way, you can see there's the cursor there going all the way to the side. So that is quite useful now. So if I missed that at the event, I am sorry, but that actually is quite cool. So if you don't want to have to go up here and touch where that cursor is, you can simply just use the space bar and try to get that cursor exactly where you'd like it. There it is. It's a little hard to see. There are also some pretty cool things that they did with the interface. One thing that I really like is the ability to move a lot of different icons down into the tray right here. I can also move around where the app tray button is, so I can place things wherever I like. And you also have the option to put more things down at the bottom here. If you go underneath settings, you go underneath home touch buttons. You can see here is button combination, and it allows you to choose what you have at the bottom here. You can have as many extra things as you would like. You don't have to have any extra things at all if you don't want to. You can also choose to make this black. You can choose to have it just normal white like this. And there's also this thing at the bottom that says hide home touch buttons. This is really important. This is something I almost wish was enabled by default. So just say that underneath the Chrome web browser you don't want to see these buttons down at the bottom. You can simply enable all the applications, anything that you have installed or anything that is already installed. So now when I go underneath Google Chrome, you can see that it hides the buttons down at the bottom and everything is full screen. So I find that to be very useful for some games, especially games where normally this bar would stay down at the bottom, such as Granny Smith. That's something that's never full screen. Also, NFS Most Wanted is not full screen still for some reason. But now, when I click on this, because I have the ability to make this full screen and make this bar go away, it's full screen now. So congratulations to LG on that. You simply just need to swipe from the right, and there it is. So full screen. I did see some blogs saying it's really annoying that this is still in the way. No, they just don't pay attention to the settings, although it really is not so intuitive that it's there, but it is there. Another thing that I love about this device is gesture-based features. Of course, I am referring to knock on. I sometimes can't even remember my own code. Let's see if I can get this proper. Yes, there we go. So not only does it turn on the display, but it unlocks it at the same time. So double tap to turn off. You can use your combination to turn on. Voila, very simple, very easy. They say there are over 80,000 combinations, but honestly, I only see someone doing something very, very simple by using maybe a tap in each quadrant, because what I did was I started making multiple taps. Sometimes it's 3 in one quadrant, 2 in another, and it creates a higher prevalence of error. It became very difficult to get the taps right to be able to unlock the display. So yes, there are 80,000 different combinations, but you're probably only going to want to use something very simple like that. And then at that point, it's very simple for someone to look at that and say, oh yeah, I know what that person's doing. I can easily get into that phone, especially if they have any idea about what knock-on is. So I'm kind of becoming a little iffy feeling about this knock-on thing in terms of security. I think it's nice for at least having some security, but having 80,000 combinations telling me that I can use 80,000 different combinations in terms of taps, no one is going to do that, and I see it's totally impractical. And over time, I wonder if I'm going to eventually turn it off. Unless it's a very simple combination, it's just too cumbersome and not fun to use. So I think it's a nice little gimmick sometimes to turn on the display and unlock the phone at the same time, but don't count too much on great security from that. Another thing that I really like are these buttons on the back that came from the G2. One thing that I really loved about the G2 was being able to use the shortcut keys, which you cannot program to other programs. This one is for quick memo, this one is for the camera if you hold it down. But the weird thing is that there is some kind of a bug. I notice sometimes that it turns the camera on just like it did just now, but sometimes I will just hold it down for many, many seconds and it will not turn the camera on. Of course, it's just going to work properly right now and make me look like a nut. Let's try it again. So I would hold this down and the camera, well, it's working now, so whatever. But sometimes this does not work and it's frustrating because I expect the camera to turn on and sometimes it just won't. So I'm hoping that's just a little bug that LG will be able to fix. And if anyone has any experience with this happening or know why this happens, let me know. Of course, don't tell me something so simple as, oh, make sure that it's on, because you do have the option to go underneath here and hit shortcut key. And yes, it has been on the entire time. I can confirm that it was on when it was not working, so I think it's just a bug. Now, a little bit about playing with the camera. There is something that I noticed. There seems to be a little bit of regression in features. When you go underneath these settings here, I'm noticing that there is no choice for smooth motion or 60 frames per second. That just doesn't exist. You have the slow motion, 120 frames per second, but there is no 60 frames per second, although you do have Ultra HD 4K. I know you can't even use 60 frames per second when uploading to YouTube, so it's not going to be a big deal for a lot of people, but I found that to be a bit annoying that it got rid of one of the features that I really loved on the G2. I've also really loved how it's very easy to use this device one-handed. I've got the tiniest hands possible. It's pretty insulting. So if this button works, I can hold this down and it will activate the camera for me. And if I want to get to the front-facing camera, you just swipe your thumb and it switches to the front-facing camera. Hello! And then you can switch back. You can do all of this with just using one hand. You can unlock the device with one hand. So it's got a lot of really fun, cool features. I was freaking out because I couldn't get the one tap feature to work, because you're supposed to be able to tap it and it's supposed to be able to take the picture without you having to hit the camera shutter button.
How to take a picture like a pro with LG G3. Just shoot.
But of course you need to make sure that the menu is out of the way. When the menu is out of the way and you don't see anything on the display, you then can tap the display and it will take the picture for you. I believe by default that it turns on that way. Let's see if that works that way. Holding it on. Yes, so there is no menu at first. You should be able to just activate the camera right away and tap and it will take a picture for you. So I'm going to be using this camera a lot. I can't wait to really test out that 4K Ultra HD video. I also really want to see how it does with this laser autofocus. There's just so much fun things on this device. I am still excited even though it has some issues. The best thing has got to be the Ultra HD video with optical image stabilization. That's just not something that you have on other devices. So far, I really do like this device. I love the package that it came with, 2 different batteries, especially if I'm starting to perceive that it's possible that if you like a brighter display that you're gonna have trouble with your battery. So hang tight, I will be making more videos. This is just a very simple on the surface video that I've made right here. If you have any questions about this device, now is the time to do it. Please ask them down below in the comment section. I will try to cover as many of the questions that I see in my review. So thank you everybody for watching. This has been Erica, the technology nerd who likes to film stuff. Please rate, comment, and subscribe. If you want to know where I got this device again, it's 28mobile.com. You can check out the link in the description. Really nice little package that this came with. So it's got some frustrating things about it, but it really is a nice device, and I will have a chance to check it out more in the days and weeks to come. Have a good night, everybody.